The monsoon session of Parliament finally began today. Now, this is no ordinary session. This comes in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, among much concern about how the session can be held. But of course, logistics were worked out. The session did begin, but not without several MPs actually testing positive ahead of the session. Well, what we want to try and understand from Moushumi Gupta, who, as you know, tracks the government closely for The Print in this episode of Government Matters, is what really happened on the first day and what lies ahead. Why is this session so crucial? What are the important bills that are due to be tabled, and what is the legislative agenda of the government? Please start sending in your questions. Moushumi, so let's first talk about the first day. How different was it from a usual Parliament session?
Ruhi, it was a very, very different Parliament session. In fact, it will be a one of its kind session in the history of the Parliament sessions.
Right.
So to start with, today the Lok Sabha met for 4 hours in the morning, and the Rajya Sabha is meeting in the afternoon. And when the Lok Sabha met in the morning, the MPs of the Lok Sabha were sitting in both the houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, because of the social distancing norms. It was not possible to accommodate all the MPs in the lower house. So they were spread out not only in the Rajya Sabha, but in the Rajya Sabha galleries and the Lok Sabha gallery as well.
So was there some kind of a projector in the...
Yeah, so the sound system has been made in such a way that that the Rajya Sabha MPs who are sitting in the Rajya Sabha can listen to the proceedings in the Lok Sabha. Also, each of the parties have been assigned a number based on the numeric strength in the Lok Sabha, and if an MP from a party has to speak on an issue, then he can come to the Lok Sabha, to the designated seat of that party, and stand there and sit there and speak.
Right.
And also, Ruhi, there were many firsts in this session, and many traditions, conventions and traditions were done away with. Not only the question hour, which was suspended, and there was a huge controversy. There's still, the opposition party is creating a ruckus over it. But many other traditions also, like, MPs were told to sit while addressing the House. Generally, MPs, as a norm, MPs stand while addressing the House. So that was one of the things. Members were wearing masks. Special polycarbonated sheets were installed between each members to ensure social distancing protocols are followed. And the usual hustle and bustle of the Parliament session, the first day of the session, you have the Treasury benches, MPs walking over the aisle and greeting their opposition, friends in the opposition. So all those things were missing.
Right. Now this is expected to be a bit of a fiery session, Moushumi, because the economy has been in a free fall. So the opposition is expected to take on the Modi government as far as the economy is concerned. Then, of course, there have been several crises over the last 6 months, whether it's the migrant crisis, whether it's the recent student anger over the NEET JEE exam. So there is a lot of ammunition the opposition would have come ready with. So what is the opposition's flow strategy? Considering, again, the House will be divided, some would be sitting in the Lok Sabha, some in the Rajya Sabha. What is the opposition's flow strategy?
The opposition has already decided, Ruhi, that along with the Congress, along with the like-minded opposition parties, would corner the government on the economy, on the way the government has managed COVID pandemic, on the face-off between India-China face-off on the border.
Yes, I forgot the India-China face-off.
In fact, going by the proceedings in the Lok Sabha today, it looks like the session is going to be a bit stormy, because in the Lok Sabha today morning, many opposition members, including the Congress leader of the House, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, many other Congress leaders, IUML leaders, Trinamool leaders raked up the issue of suspension of question hour. They said that suspending the question hour is akin to strangulating the democracy, and wanted it to be restored. Though the ruling party leaders, including Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi, said that the decision to suspend question hour was taken after consulting the opposition leaders. Then the opposition leaders also, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, raised the issue of, he said that we need to discuss the issue of the border, the skirmish between India and China in the border. Though the speaker said that, the House will discuss it, take it up on a later day. So going by the way the first session, the first day has gone, it looks like
a stormy session.
It's likely to be a storming session.
Right, and as I said, there is enough to corner the government.
But the only thing going in the favor of the government is that because of this pandemic, because of the social distancing norms, attendance is not likely to be 100% in the House. In fact, even in the Lok Sabha today, the attendance was very low. In Rajya Sabha, the attendance was in fact, far lower, much lower than Lok Sabha, but much lower than normal time. Many MPs have tested positive.
Right.
Our sources were telling us that close to 24 MPs have tested positive because Ruhi, the government has made it mandatory that to attend the session, to enter the House, MPs will have to.
Even journalists have been.
Will have to show a COVID negative certificate. So.
Right. So, Moushumi, this opposition has never quite been known to be very united on the floor of the House. We've seen it in the past sessions as well, how this lack of unity in the opposition has ensured that the Modi government is able to get its way, even in Rajya Sabha where it doesn't have the numbers. But have the opposition parties been holding back channel talks, negotiations? Have they held meetings or whatever video conferences to plan a strategy to take on the government?
Yeah, Ruhi, in the last 1 week, the opposition parties have met. The Congress, in fact, had its internal meetings where they decided their, parliament's the strategy in both the houses. Then the Congress leaders have also been in talk with the other opposition leaders, the other like-minded opposition leaders like the Trinamool, like the SP, BSP, to chalk out their strategy. And they are going to corner the government on, like I said, that the LAC issue, the economy, the COVID pandemic. And also, Ruhi, the opposition's floor strategy will be on show today in the Rajya Sabha when they vote for the deputy chairman's post.
Right.
Though it's given that the ruling party's candidate JDU's
more of a symbolic fight.
He will win. But the opposition has come together. Some 12 opposition parties have supported the opposition joint candidate, Professor Manoj Jha, for the Rajya Sabha Deputy Speaker's post.
Right. Now, Moushumi, before we start taking viewer questions, let's talk a little bit about the legislative agenda. What are the important bills that are due to be tabled in this session?
Ruhi, the government has lined up some 45 bills that will be taken up in the session of the parliament. It includes many of the finance related bills, then the three social security, the labor codes which the government wants to push through in this session. Also 11 ordinances. The government will be introducing bills to replace the 11 ordinances that were brought in during between March and July. So 11 bills will be introduced to replace the ordinances. So it's going to be a very
busy.
Very busy
legislative agenda.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, there's a question from Ashish Gupta. Do you think, given the state of the economy and all the mishandlings of many things in 2020, BJP will dare to pass a bold bill, say UCC or NRC in the near future? So UCC is the big question after CA, after the Triple Talaq bill, after the Article 370 abrogation. The big question has been UCC. Any talk around that?
I don't think, Ruhi, both the bills are not listed in this session of the parliament as of now. And I don't think it will be taken up in this session because in a way it's not a normal session. Because the opposition and both the government and the opposition wanted that a session should be, the monsoon session should be held despite the pandemic raging. A session has been called and a lot of protocols have been put in place. And it's an 18-day session where, the MPs would be, the session parliament would be meeting even on the weekends to ensure that, MPs don't go to their constituency during the weekend. And the numbers, as I said earlier, will be very limited. So, introducing bills like this, at such a time, I don't think the
government will do that. Yeah. Right. Samir Raut, will we see some fiery parliament speeches, or is this an end to the culture of fierce debates?
No, we will see, fiery speeches from the MPs. In fact, today also, the leader of the Congress in the Lok Sabha, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, then IUMS, Asauddin Owaisi, they gave statements, very strong statements, questioning the government's decision to suspend the question hour.
Right. So that's something that is a tradition in Parliament, and that's unlikely to change. But taking off from this question, I'm interested to know, we are so used to visuals of the opposition party rushing to the well of the House to protest. That's not going to happen anymore,
is it? That's not going to happen, Ruhi. In fact, today also, that's one of the things, you obviously miss out, because when the sparks flew between the ruling party and members and the opposition over the suspension of question hours, over the discussion on LAC issues. But you could see the visible discomfort on the face of the opposition members, because they can no longer come to the floor of the House and protest or make their point.
So an important parliamentary tradition has fallen prey to the COVID pandemic. All right, Ashok, why has the deputy speaker for the Lok Sabha not been elected so far?
Ruhi, recently the Congress leader of the House, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, in fact had written to the Lok Sabha speaker saying that the government, the Lok Sabha should, along with the election of the Rajya Sabha deputy chairman, the election of the deputy speaker should also be held, but the government is yet to take a decision on that. But I am sure, a decision on this will be taken soon, because the opposition is building up the heat on the ruling party to fill up the post.
Samir Raut, can we see a debate on the constitutional validity of the UAPA if the opposition unites and asks for a discussion on it, seeing the misuse of it? Well, let's not forget who brought the UAPA in the first place.
Yeah, like Ruhi, I said, this time around already the legislative business is full of lot of these topics like the economy, lot of these pressing topics that needs to be discussed and debated, and which the opposition has also been pushing for. So a discussion on this is not likely during this session, at least.
Right. So one of the highlights of the day was Health Minister Harshavardhan's speech. Any big takeaways from that?
The Health Minister, basically, this is the first time that the Health Minister is making a statement on how the government has managed the COVID situation on the floor of the House. So one of the big takeaway was, which the government has been repeating over the last 3-4 months, is how India has managed the COVID situation, and how India's fatality rate compared to the rest of the world is nearly half of the world's rate, which is very good. So basically, mainly that. So the opposition did create they did shout after the Union Health Minister's statement over how, the statement did not address many other crucial points related to COVID management. But
Right, and I think he also said something to the effect of 92% of COVID cases being asymptomatic. Or
he also mentioned in the floor of the House that in India, majority of this case, and he put a number also, 92% of them were asymptomatic.
So this tells us about the importance of wearing masks and not taking anything for granted. Even
and also maintaining social distancing norms, sanitizing your hands frequently.
Absolutely, and that's something we were hoping all our MPs are also following now that they are all congregated together on the floor of the House. Moushumi, I know I promised to let you go off early today, and I'm keeping that promise because I know you have a lot of stories slated. So thank you so much for joining us despite being very busy today. Thank you for watching Government Matters and for sending in your questions. Keep subscribing to our YouTube channel.